We're living through what might just be one of the most paradoxical time periods ever. Like, on one hand, things are really bad economically right now. There's the rampant price gouging at grocery stores, the housing crisis, the ever-evolving trade wars between the US and Canada, and the US and Mexico, and the US and China, and yeah.
Brothers and sisters are natural enemies, like Englishmen and Scots, or Welshmen and Scots, or Japanese and Scots, or Scots and other Scots.
The stock market is falling, jobs are seemingly impossible to come by, and it's looking more and more every day like we're headed towards a recession. But on the other hand, the standard of living for regular everyday people has never been higher, and it's kind of a weird thing to think about. More and more people are finding themselves living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to make ends meet, while at the same time, luxuries that were once reserved for royalty and A-list celebrities have now become accessible and normalized for the average person, and I can't help but feel like there's at least some connection there. There was a time not that long ago where only the rich and famous could have any meal they wanted delivered to them at any time with a snap of their fingers. This was called having a personal chef, and unless you were filthy rich, it wasn't going to happen. Today, we call that DoorDash, and now anyone can have any meal they want delivered to them with just a few taps, and for a lot of people, this has become a fairly standard way to have dinner throughout the week. Having a private driver also used to be something that was reserved for the wealthy, or at least for special occasions, and the rest of us normies would just drive ourselves wherever we had to go, or take public transit, or even walk if we had to. Imagine that. But now there's Uber, which is essentially like having a chauffeur that can take you anywhere, anytime. Is it more convenient than taking the bus? Of course. But it's also a lot more expensive. If you needed errands run or something purchased on your behalf, that used to be called having a personal assistant. But now Jeff Bezos and Instacart are your personal assistants, and you can have virtually any item in the world delivered to you within 24 hours or less. Between food delivery, ride-sharing, Amazon, Rover, TaskRabbit, Instacart, and all these other apps and services, it's become so easy for everyone to just outsource or demand whatever they want whenever they want it. And hell, if you have one of those Hey Alexa or Hey Google things, you can even just shout orders at it like it's your personal employee. Convenience culture started as a way for the wealthy to avoid having to do anything mildly stressful or unpleasant or laborious themselves, and more importantly, to avoid having to interact with the general public, which we'll talk more about in a second. But it's now wormed its way into the lives of everyday people. And at the risk of sounding like an out-of-touch boomer, none of this is normal. Like, maybe Taylor Swift needs a personal assistant because she'd get swarmed if she tried to go to the mall herself, but you're not Taylor Swift. And in no way am I suggesting that we should all eat gruel or walk to work uphill both ways in a blizzard, but I am suggesting that the average working class person now has a higher standard of living than even royalty used to. And I think that our expectations and really our level of entitlement to such an extreme form of convenience plays a significant role in the financial hardship a lot of people are facing, not to mention the social impact. A survey on Finder.com found that 74% of American adults spend over $4,000 a year on convenience services like ride-sharing, food delivery, and subscription boxes. That's over $300 every month. And the part of this that I find to be the most bizarre is that the entire point of convenience culture, the whole reason that people have things like meals and groceries delivered or that they outsource all these various tasks, is supposed to be to save time. But for the majority of people who use these services, it's actually doing the complete opposite. Because when you choose to pay a premium for everyday expenses like groceries or transportation or shopping, all you're actually doing is forcing yourself to need to work more in order to be able to afford it, or in order to pay off the debt that you've accumulated because you couldn't really afford it. Maybe it's just me, but I would rather chill out at home and cook my own meals, or put on a podcast and assemble my own IKEA furniture, than have to work an extra 10 to 20 hours every month to be able to outsource those things to DoorDash and TaskRabbit. That's not convenient at all. For me, when it comes to convenience spending, I want that purchase to not only save me time, but to save me money too. And as it turns out, today's sponsor, Clean My Mac, does just that. If you're a Mac user like I am, then you know that the beauty of using a Mac, and the reason that we choose to pay a little more for them, is because the user experience is incredible. I know this might sound weird, but my Mac feels like so much more than just a computer to me. It feels like a digital representation of my home. Like literally, my entire life is on this thing. But just like your home, over time, things can become cluttered and messy and out of control, which bogs you down and stifles your productivity and makes everything way more frustrating and time-consuming than it needs to be. Clean My Mac is like having a housekeeper or a gardener for your Mac that comes in and declutters and tidies everything up by removing unnecessary files and system cache and development junk, removing malware with Clean My Mac's Moonlock anti-malware engine, freeing up storage by removing duplicates, optimizing battery life, and preventing overheating so your Mac stays running just like new and you can avoid expensive hardware upgrades. You might think that you need more storage or more RAM or even a brand new Mac, but really you might just need a little cleanup. Click the link below to get started with a free 7-day trial of Clean My Mac and use the code Nicole for 20% off. And thanks to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this video. Now, none of this is to say that there isn't value to convenience, because of course there is. We all find value in different things, and so if you're doing well for yourself financially and you can genuinely afford to use these services and you enjoy them, then go for it. If you're making multiple 6 figures a year and you're debt-free and you find joy in never having to cook or clean for yourself, then you do you. But also, I'm hard-pressed to believe that people in that position are even watching my videos, so... The thing is that I really do believe there's a time and place for all of these services. Instacart can be a lifesaver when you're stuck at home sick. Uber can be a necessity when you're going to the airport or if you have an important meeting and can't drive. DoorDash can be great if you're stuck in a work meeting and need lunch, or really even just as an occasional treat if you can afford it. But the problem is that for a lot of people, these luxuries are not even seen as luxuries anymore. They've just become regular everyday occurrences. People will complain about the price of gas, which is totally valid by the way, that shit's expensive, but then they'll jump in a $20 Uber to take them 2 miles. They'll spend $35 to have a crappy burrito delivered to them, but then they'll cry about the price of eggs at a grocery store, which, side note, in case you needed another reason to stop eating eggs, I mean the price, definitely one of them, but also the fact that egg-laying hens are mutilated and tortured and abused, and male chicks born in hatcheries are either ground up alive or smothered in plastic bags because they'll never make eggs, so they're just a waste product. Or animal agriculture in general is terrible for the environment and extremely resource intensive. Or the fact that eggs are terrible for your cholesterol, or that they're jiggly and they smell like farts, or that they're literally hen periods which come out of the chicken's ass because, fun fact, but birds only have one hole. Side tangent, but I'm really curious to know who the first person was to ever see an egg fall out of a bird's asshole and think, breakfast. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, finances. The point that I'm trying to make is that life is undeniably expensive, and unfortunately, it looks like it's only going to get worse. But it is completely nonsensical to get yourself worked up about the prices of things you need, which you can't control, while simultaneously willfully allowing yourself to get price gouged to the tune of $300 a week. When I was growing up, my next door neighbors, who were like a 2-income middle-class family, they had this routine where every Friday night they'd get takeout for dinner. So they'd pick up like a pizza or some McDonald's or something on the way home from work, and it was like their little treat that they all really looked forward to. And it's kind of funny, because I remember all the rest of us neighbors being like, damn, that's a little bougie, like they can afford to get takeout every single week, but evidently they could budget for it and it worked for them and whatever. The thought that it's now normal for people to eat takeout or restaurant food multiple times a week is crazy enough, but the idea of paying 2 to 3 times more to have it delivered is insanity. But this goes so much further than just finances. As I mentioned, the idea of having somebody drive you around or having everything hand delivered to you no matter the cost was something that celebrities always relied on, sometimes for their personal safety and honestly sometimes just for their ego so they don't have to like intermingle with peasants like you and me.
I am riding on the bus.
Hey, aren't you that guy everybody hates?
But the result of all of this is a level of social isolation that is neither normal nor healthy. Like, there's a reason that so many celebrities have had mentee Bs and drug problems. Whether you consider yourself to be an introvert or an extrovert, humans are innately social creatures, and our brain chemistry requires a certain level of social interaction and connection to stay balanced and healthy. I talked about this a lot in a video that I made last year about the disappearance of third places. It's actually one of my favorite videos I ever made, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'll put a link up top. But basically, as we opt more and more to have things delivered to us and avoid going out in public to grocery stores and malls and restaurants, we become reclusive. And it has serious implications on our social skills and general mental health. It may not seem significant, but the micro interactions you have with other people when you go out into stores or on the streets or public transit, these are the things that foster a sense of community. You become familiar with the cashier at your local grocery store. You get to know the people who share your morning commute with you. Hell, you build friendships with your neighbors by helping each other out with things. The neighbors on one side of me don't have a car, so on multiple occasions I've offered to take them grocery shopping with me, especially when the weather's crappy, so that they're not stuck having to walk with their stuff in the cold or the rain. And in return, when I had COVID last year, they offered to pick up some groceries for me when they were out. I saved them an Uber ride, they saved me an Instacart order, and best of all is like, we're friends now. People are always talking about this loneliness epidemic or how hard it is to make friends as an adult, and then they do everything possible to avoid leaving the house and interacting with other humans. Make it make sense. The other part of this that we need to talk about is the loss of novelty. Novelty is what makes life fun. Having things to look forward to, treating yourself and others to things. So like, for example, if you constantly cook all your meals at home, the odd time that you decide to go out to eat or order DoorDash, it feels special. It's something you look forward to and you're excited about it. It feels like a splurge, which it is. It feels like a treat. But when it's something that you do 3 times a week, it just feels like any other Monday, and the same can be said about any other convenience service. When your brain adjusts to seeing novelties as nothing special, 2 things happen. Number 1 is you require bigger and bigger things to get that dopamine rush you're craving. So instead of some sushi making you happy, now you need a new iPhone or a new car to feel excited because sushi is just sushi. This is called hedonic adaptation. The other thing that happens is it becomes incredibly difficult to downgrade your lifestyle if you ever have to. Someone who's used to taking public transit or cooking their own meals or fixing their own stuff doesn't think twice about it. But when you become used to a higher standard of living, going backwards feels like torture. And so it puts you into this weird predicament where you're obligated, where you're required to maintain a certain level of income in perpetuity to be able to maintain this lifestyle that you feel so accustomed to. This is what they call lifestyle inflation. I remember when I was 19, I was working at a store that was about a 30-minute drive from where I lived. But I didn't have a car, so I had to take 3 buses and walk a kilometer from the bus stop to the store to get there. It was miserable, but honestly, whatever, I did it day after day after day. Then I got a car, and I remember thinking, you know what, like, I'll probably still take the bus once in a while, at least when the weather's good, so that I can save a little bit of money on gas. Guess how many times that happened? Yeah. Once I got accustomed to the comfort and the convenience of driving, there was nothing that could convince me to endure the pain in the ass of taking the bus ever again, despite the fact that I had been doing it for months. But the funniest part of all of this, at least to me, is that a lot of these convenience services that we pay so much for, they're actually shit. Like, by the time that DoorDash brings you your food, you're left with an overpriced bag of cold soggy french fries. And I know so many people who have had Instacart orders that were completely wrong, or they had items substituted that were not at all appropriate, like vegans having meat put into their order, or people receiving items that they're deathly allergic to. I know somebody whose dog ran off and got lost under the care of some inexperienced person that they hired on Rover. And well, you already know how I feel about Amazon. Funny Amazon story, actually. As you guys know, not a fan, and I do everything possible to avoid using it. But occasionally, if there's something that I need that I can't find elsewhere, I will place an Amazon order. So last month, I needed a new blade assembly for my Ninja blender, and I ordered it on Amazon, and it arrived at my house. It was a little cardboard box about this big, with a sticker on it that said Ninja blender parts, and when I opened the box, there was a bottle of calamine lotion in it, so I'm still not sure how that happened. Anyways, all I'm saying is that if you're a part of the massive demographic of people who are feeling squeezed financially, who are feeling the stress of paying for gas and groceries and rent, if you're in debt, if you have no savings, these convenience apps are not things that you should be using on a regular basis. As I said, you're not Taylor Swift, and honestly, you're probably better off for it. If you enjoyed this video at all, please go ahead and hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. You can follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. Let me know in the comment section down below if these apps are things that you use with any frequency and what your experience has been with them and if you feel like you get good value for your money. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Damn Scots! They ruined Scotland!